Greetings and welcome to another episode of Veterans of the Cedar Valley. My name is Tom Haggerty. I'll be your host today's show, and today we are very honored to have organizers of the Cedar Valley Honor Flights here in the studio, and we're going to be discussing the honor flights that have taken place and future honor flights that are hopefully going to take place, and that we'd like to help. If you'd like to help the honor flights, then this is also what the show is about. I'd like to welcome to the studio Craig White, Dave Albaugh, and Frank Magnuson. And I'm sure you know two out of the three, but we'll get to know Dave here shortly. As I said at the opening, the honor flights are out of the Waterloo Airport. Is that correct, Craig?
That's correct, Tom.
And then how many have we had, do you know?
21.
21 honor flights out of the Waterloo Airport?
Yes. We're going to do 22, 3, and 4 this year.
Oh my goodness, and that's quite a number of veterans also, Frank, that have gotten to go. Got a rough number?
I think when we have these 3 flights off, we'll be over 2,000 that have flown out of here.
Wow.
So.
And Dave, do you I'm sorry.
It's incredible the response that's been for this.
And Dave, you remember which number you were or what year you went on the honor flight?
Yes, I had the honor of going on the flight last May out of Waterloo.
Okay. And then, Dave, you're a Vietnam veteran?
That's correct. I'm a Vietnam veteran. I served as an Air Force pilot during the Vietnam War.
And you told me you flew C-141 Starlifters?
That's correct. I flew the C-141. It's a large transport aircraft. I flew worldwide missions for 4 years, including many into Southeast Asia.
Dave and I have been emailing back and forth because he flew the 141 Starlifters and I unloaded them as a medic in the United States. Craig, you served in Vietnam in the Army?
Yes, sir.
And then what years were you there?
68 and 69.
And then Frank?
I am not a veteran.
Okay.
I just thought this was a great mission to be on.
Well, you're a veteran supporter, and everybody appreciates that. And one of the things I wanted to find out right off the bat is, Craig, how does a veteran who wants to go on an honor flight start that process? Does he just walk up to you or Frank or anybody on the committee and say, I'd like to go?
The easiest way is to either go online to our site online or go to Hy-Vee stores and get an application through the Hy-Vee stores.
Are those applications in veterans posts or?
Yes, they're even in the courthouse.
Okay. And then the flights are termed, Frank, Cedar Valley Honor Flights. Does that limit who gets to go, or?
Well, they're actually Sullivan Hartog Davis Cedar Valley Honor Flight is the official name. We cover a 5-county area around Black Hawk County, but we do take other veterans from other areas in the state, so we evaluate those when they send their applications in.
And Dave, when you made application to go on a flight, how long did it take you to be selected, I guess, to go on a flight?
Well, we had a bit of a special case. I had the opportunity to visit the memorials in D.C. many times previously, either on family vacations or on business trips. So I wanted to have some other veteran take my seat on the honor flight. So for a long time, I did not want to go. However, then a number of our classmates got together, and we actually had 7 of our West High classmates who were Vietnam veterans all go together. And to answer your question, it was planned probably 4 to 6 months ahead of time.
Okay. And then on the average, you say, Craig, how many do you do a year?
We average 3 flights a year.
Okay, and how many go on the plane?
Well, it's 165, but that's including the chaperones. So, and depending on how many chaperones that are required, depends on how many vets go. You know, so there's 165 seats available.
And Frank, do the planes originate out of Waterloo, or do you charter them? Or?
We have to charter the aircraft, and you know, it's a pretty expensive operation to have those come in here and be available for that one-day flight.
Okay, well, you hit on what part of the subject of this is money. Craig, what does one flight cost for everything?
With everything, right over, just a little over $100,000 this year again.
Goodness gracious now. And we said everything. So Dave, when you get off the plane, it leaves Waterloo and goes to Washington, D.C. to see the memorials, correct?
Correct.
When you get off the plane at the airport, do you take taxi cabs or something to the memorials, or how's that work?
Well, it's actually quite an experience. Our flight flew into the Baltimore International Airport, and as we were taxiing in, they had the fire trucks shooting water arches over our plane.
Oh, cool.
After we got off the plane, we got on buses, and the buses then drove from Baltimore Airport to the Washington, D.C. area.
And Frank, when a flight is going to go, what time do the veterans and their spouses or their supporters
Well,
need to be there?
We started at 5:30 a.m. in the morning, and you know, there's not usually an issue. They're there plenty of time ahead so that they're assured that they're on the flight. But we ask those that need assistance with wheelchairs to come at 5:30, and then those ambulatory, they come in at 5:45.
Okay, so Craig, when you're out there at 5:30, do you have to go through security like normal?
Yes, we do. We send them, they got to go through security just like anyone else.
And are there other flights taking off from the Waterloo Airport at that time?
Yes, there is. There's a flight into Chicago, but we've never had a problem with that. You know, we usually get off on time, or we make it up in the air.
That's good to know. Dave, you weren't in a wheelchair as a veteran.
That's
right?
correct.
So veterans in wheelchairs, I would assume, like, they get the load first,
Yeah, of course.
and then what do they do with the wheelchair? Do they put it in a cargo hold, or?
Well, there's wheelchairs that are used at this airport that stay at this airport, and then when we get to the next airport, there's also wheelchairs there. So
Okay,
the veterans that need them are covered for the whole flight.
okay. So Frank, a veteran who needs a supporter, and I think you call them supporters or a host?
We call them guardian.
And are they veterans also, or are they relatives?
Many of them are individuals that are interested in serving in that role. They can be, obviously, they can be veterans, can be family members, or they can just be from the general public that are willing to sign up to be a guardian on the aircraft.
So they leave at 5:30, Craig, from Waterloo?
They actually leave at, I'm sorry, 7 a.m.
Oh,
the flight.
so they do get a little time to have coffee and
Oh, yeah.
donuts. But when they're leaving out of the Waterloo Airport, besides the veterans and their host, are there other people out there? I know that various veterans posts come out there.
Yep. Yeah. It varies from flight to flight, but we usually got a pretty full house every time, you know, with people sending them off, and an even bigger crowd when they come home.
And are those more relatives, or are they
Relatives,
veterans
friends,
posts?
relative, friends, veterans post, the writers groups, and just about anybody that Boy Scout troops, Cub Scout troops. It's wonderful. It's growing every year. Every flight it grows a little bit.
And Frank, when the veteran is driving up to the airport, they park in the parking lot, but before they get there, are there some like fire trucks out there? Not like Dave said, they're not shooting hoses at them at that time, but
No, but we have tremendous support from public safety throughout Black Hawk County here. And the Waterloo and Cedar Falls fire departments put up their aerial ladders with the large U.S. flag draped from it. So it's an experience for them coming into the airport to drive through that.
so then they just normally park their car and go in and check. Do they have luggage, or are they just taking, Craig, they just taking backpacks, or?
We supply them with a backpack, and from Hy-Vee. Hy-Vee furnishes a lot of stuff for us, and the backpack has got some items they might need during the day.
But the veterans are pretty excited to be getting ready to get on the plane, and cleared through security, and they're loading the plane, and you said 150,
65.
165?
That's including the nurses and various other people that got to go too.
So you have nurses go along just in
We have-
case of
we
a
have
problem?
Nurses, we have usually have a doctor on board. We have medical staff at all times.
Wow. And Dave, maybe you had on your flight some local media go with you? I don't know, KWWL or anybody else has followed those flights.
Oftentimes, the local media does send people on the flight. On our flight, we had Dolly Fortier from KCFI on board, and she enjoyed it significantly.
Good. And then, of course, there's been plenty of activity to publicize honor flights. I mean, I know you both as a committee or your entire committee have done a great job in putting the word out, and we're going to talk about that in the second half about how people can support. But okay, we're on the plane, Frank, and we're flying to Washington. How long does it take that charter plane to get there?
Well, it's a little over 2 hours.
And then they land, they offload onto the charter buses, and aren't they getting kind of hungry about that time, or have they already had?
I just want to mention there's just tremendous support out there in Washington, D.C. Every flight, the veterans are greeted by volunteers out there. They provide them with, water for the time that they're in D.C. So they do get a little bit of a snack on the airplane going out, and then we do provide lunch and mid-afternoon food for them out there.
Okay. And then I failed to ask you, but Craig, at the airport, are they provided a snack or a breakfast? Or?
Yep, it'd be like a continental breakfast in a way. There's apples, oranges, rolls, and coffee, juices.
Who provides that, Craig?
Ivy.
Really? Lock,
Yes.
stock, and barrel.
Yep,
That's
yep.
really cool. Okay, so we're flying to Washington, D.C., and we get off the plane, and are you assigned, how many buses does it take, Dave, to?
For our flight, we had 3 buses, and the way we were coordinated was we had lanyards on our necks with our name tag, and there were 3 different colored lanyards, red, white, and blue. So you were assigned to a red, white, or blue bus, and once we were on the bus at the airport, we stayed on that bus. We had a tour guide on the bus the whole 6 hours, 7 hours with us as we went from monument, and location in Washington, D.C.
Craig, the earlier flights, they were made up majority-wise of World War II Korea veterans?
That's correct.
Of course, there wouldn't be any World War I.
No.
But the first few flights were mainly those veterans, right?
That's all that went on the first. I forget. I don't have the exact number, but for the first couple of years, that's all we took was Korean and World War II vets.
Okay. And then most of those wheelchair bound?
60, I'd say 50, 60%.
Okay. And then as you went on with your flights, Frank, you picked up less World War II veterans, picked up more Korean veterans, and then all of a sudden we got into the Vietnam War. Is that
That's
pretty
correct.
much? And
Yes.
What's the response been, Frank, for, say, Korean veterans? They're
Well,
getting old, I know. But
Yeah, I mean, it's a transition. We went from the World War II veterans, the Korean veterans in Vietnam. Predominantly now the flight is probably over 50% Vietnam and then Korean. The last flight we did have a World War II veteran on,
Okay.
but I have not seen that there's a World War II veteran on this upcoming flight.
We're going to take a time out here and have a couple commercials to help pay for the program, and we'll be right back and continue our talk about the honor flights. Come back.
We connect here.
We connect here.
We connect here.
communicate. Make your emergency plan today.
Well, Thomas, you've got pre-diabetes. But with more exercise and a change in diet, it can be reversed.
I've tried exercising. It just makes me hungry for bacon.
I love bacon, too. And who really likes to exercise?
Not me.
Me neither.
Nobody. So we're good?
What? Oh, you still have pre-diabetes. Big time.
Welcome back to the Veterans of the Cedar Valley show. I'm Tom Haggerty, your host, and we've been spending the first part of this show visiting with organizers of the Cedar Valley Honor Flight, Craig White, Frank Magnuson from the Board of Directors, and then Dave Albaugh in the middle, who went on an honor flight. And we were talking earlier in the show about the composition of the flights, and we were getting into the most recent flights. Craig, are they mainly going to be Vietnam veterans?
It's getting, like Frank said earlier in the show, it's getting more Vietnam vets now than ever before.
Okay.
Yes.
And Frank, right away, I want to mention again, how does a veteran apply to go on an honor flight out of the Waterloo Airport?
The applications are available at all the Waterloo, Cedar Falls, and Waverly Hy-Vee stores. And they're available on our website, which is cedarvalleyhonorflights.org. And they can be downloaded from that. Or they can call us and we can make sure that they get an application. But both for the veterans and for the guardians, they can pick up those applications at the same location.
Okay, Craig, when I submit an application, say I'm a veteran that wants to go on a flight, I just send in the application with the information required, and probably a medical release and all that. Do I have to pay as a veteran to go on the flight?
No, there's no charge to the veteran whatsoever.
Okay,
It's all covered by our fundraising efforts.
But a guardian or a host
Right.
can go along. Do you require a host with every veteran?
No, it's for every 3 veterans, we've got to have a guardian with 3
Okay.
veterans, no matter what the shape they're in. And usually a veteran requests to have someone go with them, though, because I'm sure Mr. Albaugh is going to share with you about what an experience it is for the person to go with them, too.
Yeah, and Dave, did you have a host go with you?
Yes, as Craig said, all veterans are required to have a host.
Who was your host?
Our host was the son of one of my close friends that was a Vietnam vet that went as a part of our group.
Great, good. And Frank, once you submit that application, how long is it before you hear?
Well, within a relatively short period of time, within 2 or 3 weeks, you'll get a postcard back acknowledging that we received the application. Then you're put on a list, and it's based on first come, first served. So we encourage individuals that are interested in going on the flight to get those applications in, not delay putting it in thinking that they're going to do it at a different time. You know, we're fortunate to be able to raise the funds to put these flights on, but there's no guarantee that funding will remain in the future. So anyone that's interested in being on the honor flight, you need to fill out those applications. You'll be placed on a list, and then when we get closer to the dates of the honor flight, then they're asked for additional information, and then we provide an orientation dinner about 2 weeks before the flight starts so that they understand what they're going to be going through on that flight, when they need to be at the airport, what's going to happen when they're out in Washington, D.C., and what time they can expect to be home.
Okay, Craig, real quick, what does it cost for the host to go?
$600, and that's a breakdown of taking the price of the flight, dividing it by 165. And
Okay.
it breaks down to about right at $600 a seat.
Okay, and then does that make enough money to pay for a flight?
No.
The host?
No, not even close.
Okay. Let me just quickly get into some of the fundraising, okay?
Sure.
And I know people have donated money. Had maybe one corporation, I think, that I remember had paid for an entire flight, Frank?
We've had two corporations. The American Pattern was the first one that paid for a full flight, and then John Deere Corporation paid for a flight. The rest of it has been through, we have individuals that give considerable amounts of money, and then we have, people that give $25, $50, $100, $200. Fortunately, I looked at it the other day, and to supply 3 flights a year costs about $900 a day to collect funds for.
Just to get donations in for that. And I know real quick, Craig, that you've had fundraisers. I jokingly said lemonade stands. Have you had like bake sales or cookbook sales or?
There's people out in the public that have had garage sales and different things for us and raised significant amounts of money. One girl from Gilbertville's done a couple 5K runs and raised a pretty good amount of money. She's done that for like 2 years.
Did you run?
No.
Did you, Frank? No, I'm kidding.
I did.
I'm kidding. But you have one major fundraiser a year. Either one of you want to tell us about that?
Go ahead, Frank.
We have our annual variety show that we put on at the Electric Park. It's one of our major fundraisers throughout the year, but we put on a variety show with local talent, and there's a meal provided with that, and then obviously we have auction items, silent and live auction, and then raffle that take place that night. So it is one of our major fundraisers, and we've been able to in the past bring in around 30,000, sometimes more, sometimes less than that. So when we look doing 7 of these, they've contributed to at least 2 of the flights that have been covered by doing that. So
one of the things I wanted to ask you or Craig is that if there's a corporation out there that happened to be watching and they wanted to fund an entire flight, do they talk to either one of you or the entire board, or just write out their check and you'll pick it up?
Frank and I usually go out and visit quite a few outfits a year to try and get donation. We just got one from an organization here a while back for $5,000, which is nice. We get them in all sizes. So yeah, we begged John Deere's for quite a while and finally hit the right person, got the right talk to the right person, and things went well for us.
Good.
And I stress the thought of families that in Black Hawk County that have long-standing commitments to the military. So I think that kind of hit home for them.
Cool, good. I'm going to take you back to arriving in Washington, Dave, and going down. Which monuments did you get to see, or did you see all the monuments?
Well, as I said, the bus has a tour route they took us on. We went to the World War II monument first. Then we went to the Lincoln Memorial, the Vietnam War Memorial, and the Korean War Memorial. And then after that, we visited the Iwo Jima statue, and we ended up at the Air Force Memorial.
Well, if I could ask you, Dave, just a little bit, what did the honor flight do to you? What was it? What was
The honor flight for me was much more meaningful than I thought it was going to be. It's one thing to stand in front of the Vietnam War Memorial Wall with your wife and kids, and quite another to stand there with your fellow veterans.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Now, when you were at that wall, did you find people that you knew?
Oh, absolutely. We had 5 of our high school classmates killed in the war.
From West?
So from West Waterloo High School. Mm-hmm. So we found their names, and our group took photographs in front of some of their names on the wall.
Yeah. So it was kind of an interesting and an emotional time for you to go. And
emotional, therapeutic, healing. Many of these Vietnam vets had never been thanked for their service.
Correct.
And I saw quite a difference in the reaction from some of them as a result of this trip.
I'm glad you got to go. Craig, we're back on the plane coming back, okay, because I want to get back to some more fundraising. When you get back to Waterloo, what time of night is it?
Between 9:30 and 10 o'clock usually, and it's quite a surprise for a lot of people what goes on at that airport when they get home.
Would you call it their welcome home ceremony?
I
that a lot of
most
them do?
definitely would.
lot of 'em-
I've seen a lot of tears shed out there.
Yeah, and I think, have you had the big band out there, or Cedar Valley Big
Yep.
Band, and they're playing music from the appropriate
Era.
wartime,
Yeah,
yeah,
yep.
you know, and flags are out there, and relatives are out there, and it's quite an event. And,
Let in by the bagpipers too, so
Yes.
that's an added touch that we've
Yeah.
added the last year or so, and that gets really emotional too.
Okay, Frank, once again, if you want to make a donation to help or contribute to the flight, small or big, contact you, Craig, a member of the committee, or look it up on the website, and that information is there.
Absolutely. Craig and I are always willing to take phone calls, and the rest of the board is also willing to do that. So, you know, if you're interested in sending that, we have a P.O. Box 182, Cedar Falls, Iowa. They can send their contributions to that address, or they can contact us, and we'll give them other addresses that they can send the checks to.
Great. And then, Craig, I want to ask you this: when you guys are at the memorials, do any of our elected officials meet you and come down and visit with the veterans?
When they first get there, usually there's a few at the first memorial, at the World War II. David probably, I went on the one, and it was emotional for me because I went with the gentleman. It was the day before my dad would have had a birthday, and you know, Dad passed away at a young age. And the gentleman I went with it was a treat to go with him. And as he's walking up to the memorial, I give him his space, and I could hear him saying names, and I went up next, and he goes, "Get up here next to me, would you please?" And I got up next to him, and I said, "You're naming off the guys you lost?" And he goes, "Yeah." And then he goes, "When we get over to Vietnam Memorial, I want to hear about the ones you lost."
Well, I'm sure it was a special time, and you deserved the trip. And we're about at the end of our program. I wish we would have had more time, but again, if people want to contribute, get a hold of either of you guys. Applications for honor flights are available at different locations. And I want to tell all three of you that I think it's just very honorable what you're doing for the veterans in the Cedar Valley, the past flights, hopefully the future flights, and that we do appreciate what you've done. And I'm sure that people who will watch this also will appreciate it. But we're out of time at this time for our show here, and I'd like to invite our viewers back for another episode of Veterans of the Cedar Valley. We appreciate you watching. Thank you very much.